sexta vítima.
Patrícia, dá-me os tubos só.
É um desespero pensar que podemos chegar a esse ponto, não ter capacidade de ajudar quem de nós precisa.
Está-lhe a faltar o ar?
Não podíamos virar costas, não podíamos fugir, não podíamos ficar fechados em casa.
E estamos com sono.
As camas todas ocupadas.
Há quem compare isto a uma guerra.
Wakati nilikuwa mtoto, mama yangu hakuwahi niambia hali ambayo ningekabiliana nayo maisha. Alikuwa mkali na mkatili sana. Sikuweza kuketi karibu naye ili tuongee kuhusu shida zangu. Laiti ningemwambia kilichonipata. Siwezi kusahau siku, saa, damu katikati ya miguu yangu.
The soldiers came, shooting any moving thing.
It was October. It was hot. The bodies decomposed very fast.
When the war came, we went to Sudan.
The culture is going, and this is because of the war and the movement and the political changes that have been happening here. Yeah.
The things which they need to keep in our culture. Traditional dance. Another one is this one, cooking food. The things which they need to change in our culture.
Todas as minhas colegas são todas revolucionárias. Estão ali, estão na batalha, estão na luta.
Eu escolhi ser feminista e levantar a bandeira dos direitos das mulheres onde quer que eu queira estar.
Em sede do tribunal, ficaram provados 2 crimes cometidos: violência física grave e violência psicológica.
Esta vitória significa e dedico àquelas milhões de mulheres que sofrem todos os dias como vítimas de violência.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. How you doing, everybody?
We're
good.
Super lovely. Thank you very much for joining us. I know I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name, so let me just turn it on here. There you go. Aritz as You can just
I can see
school
you're already
us.
suffering. No problem. You already pronounced it very well, by the way. My name is fine. Aritz, it's okay.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Welcome, Aritz. We truly, truly appreciate you joining us. We're not going to be long today. We're just so grateful that you are here and that you can talk to us about your amazing submission. So I'm going to hand over to Millicent, or maybe we can do a round of introductions. I can immediately start. My name is Mr. B, as you can see. The full name is Bonginhlanhla Ncube, and I am the festival's executive consultant. Millicent, you are on mute.
Now you are live.
Now I'm live. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I didn't know I was.
Evening.
My name is Millicent Makado, and I am the festival assistant PR.
Hi,
You can go,
everyone.
Arit. Okay.
So who is next? Me?
Yeah, you can go, Arit.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Aritz Asparren. I was the local production for the documentary Raíces Perdidas, which means Lost Roots. I am originally from Spain, but I live in Uganda.
Oh, wonderful. Mr. Malao.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Malao. I'm the festival director of the Rustenburg Film Festival.
Wonderful. Okay, I think we can now hand over to Millicent, and let's get the show on the road.
Hello, Mr. Aritz. You have a very unique name. What does your name mean?
It's actually the name of a tree, which is very common in Europe and America. It's an oak tree.
It's an oak tree.
Oak tree, yes. My name is okay. I have a Spanish passport. I'm from Spain, but we could say by tribe I'm Basque. No, so my name and my surname, Aritz Asparren, they are both Basque, and our culture is the origin of it is very much animist. No, it's very much related to the nature. So we have our names. Most of them they are related to plants, weather conditions, stones, caves, things like that.
Wow. It's such a beautiful name. I don't even know what my name means. I think most of us here don't even know what our name means, because mothers just decide to give us names that don't have any meanings. But as we grow, we make sure that we have kids who have names that mean something, so that we don't continue with that generation of not knowing. Like, you just are traveling and someone's name is Sophia. Like, when I have a child, the name is going to be Sophie. I think that's what happens with some of us.
Well, it's also a good system.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, because we at Rustenburg Film Festival, we love speaking to our nominees and asking them questions, because also the people that are watching, our viewers, would also want to know a bit or a lot about you as as the person who is nominated for the documentary. Can you please tell us a bit about yourself, like where you come from, who you are? I know you did highlight a bit when you were talking about the name, but so people can know who you are.
Okay. Well, to know who am I, it's better you come to Uganda and find out in a long conversation. But to get it short, as I said, yes, I am from Spain. Though I'm actually a Basque person, no, where my language, my culture is Basque. I studied music. My career was music performance. I play flute.
Hello, what happened there, Mr. B?
Okay.
We are all right. You may have frozen yourself, but we are all right.
Okay.
Yeah, she's the one who froze. So you can continue, Aritz.
Hello.
Okay, it's okay. So as I was saying, I am from Spain, Basque by tribe. I studied music. I'm a music performance. I went up to the university level. Now I have my degree on music performance, and I ended up in Uganda, in northern Uganda, in the Western region, because of a direct link. I have an auntie who is a Comboni missionary, so she was here in the 70s, much before I was even born. But through the links she developed with the people here, I eventually came. I found a good background for myself because there was a brass band in a primary school here in a location called Moyo, and we started a music project around that brass band. No? Eventually, with time, we had the opportunity to know very well what is here in Moyo, in the Madi sub-region, the Madi people in Moyo and Adjumani districts. And so since the very beginning of the music project, we spoke with Tripulante Produce, this company that made a documentary about what could we say about this place. No, it came to have a very rich and complex history, both recent and a long time. But we were mostly interested on what happened around 30 years ago, and slowly how things developed and they are the way they are now.
Okay, wonderful. Now, your documentary, and we're going to touch on it a little bit. We're not going to really focus a lot because people must still come to the festival and enjoy the documentary. It speaks about one small tribe in Uganda, as pronounced as Madi or something like that. Can you tell us briefly about that?
Yes, I already introduced it a little bit. Where I stay is Moyo, which is actually Uganda has now more than 140 districts, but in the independence in 1962, there were only 16, and Moyo was one of the founding districts. Now it's divided into two districts, Moyo and Adjumani districts. Also in the across the border, which is just 8 kilometers away from where I am now in South Sudan, there is also a large Madi community. They are brothers and sisters. There is no major difference between them. So Uganda now is a very peaceful and welcoming country. Of course, there are conflicts within, and there are things to be sorted out. But nowadays, coming to Uganda is just a pleasure, no? But if we go 30 years back, we may find a lot of movements of soldiers, of rebels, many people being killed, sometimes just slaughtered, not in a fight. Soldiers come to Moyo in sort of revenge. They just start shooting to everybody, anything that moves, no? So we were trying, through this documentary, we were trying to explain what happened, no? How comes that the Madi people, they are now the way they are? If you could have the opportunity to come up to Moyo, which is quite isolated, I must say, you may find that these people are extremely peaceful, extremely welcoming. There are no major problems like you may have in other big cities or big populations with violence or robberies, things like that. Yet families seem to be quite broken. Especially men seem to have very little motivation. And our impression was from the beginning that this long cycle of wars and rebels and movements and destroying properties and destroying homes generated that sense of meaningless, no? State. People don't feel like rebuilding their own homes. People don't feel like improving the situation of their own families. I insist, especially men. From there, we start identifying a lot of alcoholism, a lot of baseline problems. In the first flash, you may not find, but when you start going deep in the communities, they are everywhere. No? So this was the background, and the documentary gave us the opportunity to really ask people, no, what happened, and we saw that the transmission of the culture was not really happening. Young people, they don't have much connection with the elders. That generation above 60 or 70 years, it's very little connected with the generation of 30, 20 and lower. And that's the meaning of the title, no? Lost roots. There's been no connection, there's been no transmission. One of the important findings of the documentary, there are some women participating in it. It's very good to listen to them. And the men also involved in it. They will state it very clear. There are things of the tradition it would be good to recover. But at the same time, there are things of the tradition we really need to analyze and think sincerely whether we like them or not. And then we rebuild our roots somehow. We try to regenerate them. I'm sorry. Now I think Mr. Big. Okay, you were mute.
Yes, I was on mute. You know how it's like. Hey, it's very common. Hey, you're on mute. Hey, you are on mute. I will ask one more question before I hand over to my colleagues so that if they've got other questions to ask, you may have touched it. I'm not so sure. You said that this particular tribe is at a risk of extinction. What is it? Is it are they not multiplying anymore? Are they being targeted specifically? Can you be more specific there?
No. The tribe as such, or the ethnic rather than tribe as such, is not at all at risk of extinction. It is true that it's diminished compared to the past. When we talk about Uganda is particularly rich in different peoples that live in it. From the south, we may find different tribes of Bantu people, which I think actually even in South Africa they are very common. When you go to the east side, you may find people related to the Turkana, to the Maasai. When you go to the north, here you are going to find different clusters of peoples, the Luo migrations that came from the north, the Moru-Madi migration that came from the Western Africa, the side of Cameroon, Ghana. So Madi people having here one of the first to be in the area, when they mixed with the Luo, the outcome was the Acholi people, no? So now Acholi and Madi people having probably for centuries even related to trading. The culture of the Acholi people very often is actually directly taken from the Madi people, like the staple food, the dances, the music, they are very similar. The Madi people are not at risk of disappearing. It is just that we felt from the very beginning a sense of little courage, little energy to do things, lack of motivation. But surely Madi people like their language. They speak it always. It's more common people talking in Madi than in English or any other languages. They are well related to the Lukwara, which are also part of the Moru-Madi family. The connections between them are very common. Yeah.
Okay, and then one more. You as Aritz, how are you involved in the film? What's your role in the film, and how long did it take you guys to put this film together? Because I think it's a very, very important story that really needs to be told to the entire world.
First time we spoke about doing this documentary was 2014, early 2014. Let me say March, more or less. We were telling these people of Tripulante to please help us making a small, tiny, short sort of advert, like a spot showing what we are doing. We wanted to request help from specific institutions about music, get instruments, get other materials we need for the instruments, for their maintenance, etc. From there, they realized the background was very interesting, and they wanted originally we wanted to do a documentary very much related to our music project, which is called Vura, with V, Vura Music Project. Eventually, we diverted. We are connected, and at the end of the documentary, there are some few phrases, some glimpses of mentioning things about this project. We used people related to the project, but basically, we did something more of the context of the project, the Madi people, Since I live in Uganda and I've been here since 2014, my role was mostly the local production. I am the one who, through the help also with people from here, I identified some Ugandan nationals who were going to talk about what happened 30 years ago, 25 years ago. We also identified some refugees, current refugees from South Sudan staying now in Uganda. Actually, that refugee in particular we interviewed for the documentary, it's also a Madi woman. She's from the same ethnic, but originally from South Sudan. So the Madi people 30 years ago, they were they look for shelter in those days Sudan. Nowadays, the South Sudanese are the ones in Uganda, particularly in Moyo. And the advantage they have is actually very often they even have homesteads on which they can integrate because they have relatives. No? So my role was connecting all those parts, making sure we identify the people we want to interview, where to interview, go through all the protocols in Uganda, getting registering them as journalists, getting all the identification cards, etc. A thing I never did in my life, and the good thing is it came out well. It worked.
How difficult is it to shoot in Uganda? And I'm going to throw two questions on the screen right now. You're going to see from someone who is watching us. But how difficult is it to shoot in Uganda?
It is not very difficult. Not really. Ugandans at large, they are not aggressive. They are not violent, and they also don't expect people to be aggressive and violent. So the only thing they appreciate very much is you go through the right channels. No, like for instance, for reaching the refugee in particular, no, the woman we interviewed, it was important to first go to the office of the Prime Minister, who is represented in Adjumani in the neighboring district. Then that one connects us to the people in charge in the very settlement of the refugees, and then the commandant of the settlement is also connecting us to the representatives of the refugees, and then we talk to the representatives, and then we reach the person we were targeting. No, as long as you really respect them, they are going to enjoy. They are not going to bring any trouble. Normally, it's like that.
Wow, that's awesome. And then there's your question, what's the population of the Madi tribe?
Yeah, I can see the question there. I'm very much thinking on it. It should be in Uganda, it should be around 400 to 500 people. And in South Sudan, I really don't have data, but I'm quite sure they are less in South Sudan than in Uganda. Okay. I can also see this question of the language. The language has the same name, Madi.
Okay.
Which, as I said, it belongs to the Moro Madi family. Lugbara language, which is also in Uganda. It's also in Congo. I think also even in South Sudan. It's also part of the same family.
Okay. I'm not sure I understand this question, but I think you've already answered it.
The same tribe, the same ethnic. It's the same people. Due to the borders created by the colonialists, there are some differences in the language between the Sudanese and the Ugandan Madi people, but the fact is they understand each other very well. They don't have any problem at all to communicate. Their lifestyle is similar. Their mindset is similar. They are bordering actually. No? The people of South Sudan, they can just cross the border. They are still with the Madi people.
Okay, wonderful. All right, colleagues, I know I've been talking to Aritz all by myself, and I was enjoying it. Thank you so much, Aritz, for answering my questions. I think I must keep quiet now, eh?
I think he answered what I wanted to ask, because my question was more related to the challenges that he may have faced when putting together the documentary, and also looking at the fact that he's from Spain and going to Uganda. How well was he received by this particular community?
Well, before recording the documentary, I already spent 6 years in the same place in Moyo. So people mostly look at me as a local person. Very many people know my name. Actually, very many more people than I know, they know me. Being nearly the only foreigner in Moyo, it makes you popular somehow. I also said it before, it's not only the Madi people. Wherever you go in Uganda, normally people, they are normally welcoming. As long as you don't trespass certain limits, maybe you are not aware of. But if you also backstep, they also relax and they feel okay. Maybe you trespass the limit, you say you are sorry, and with that it's nearly already correct. So it was quite easy. It was sincerely quite easy. So there are already some connections made for the previous years. We just had to go deeper on them to reach the correct people. Most of the people that shown in the documentary, they were already my friends before building it. Now the people that came after, they are actually people connected to those very friends of mine. So it actually became quite easy to build up the stuff we needed, no, for making the right questions and connecting everything.
So are you like now settled in Uganda, or are you like still going back home to Spain?
Well, I go for visits, but I'm settled here. I'm settled here. As long as they don't deport me, I am willing to continue. It's not likely to happen, by the way.
There's a lot of similarities with Ugandan people and us. The name or the word Madi, in my culture, which is a Chivenda culture, Madi is water. And in Sepedi, Madi is blood. So I don't know what is the meaning of Madi. Madi, is it Madi or Madi?
It's a good question. It's a topic actually that arises more than once in these last 8 years. The very Madi people, they are not sure about what is the real meaning of that. The speculation is Madi is a name actually given by the colonialists to them. You know how it happens, no? You are coming here, you obviously need interpreters. Madi language is not common at all. It's a tonal language with very three specific identified tones, and depending on how you pronounce, the intonation of the word, it can be something extremely different. So I imagine these people having the translators and then asking, "Who are you?" and eventually Madi. And their opinion is, some of them, they think Madi, it actually means I am here. Madi, I am from here, or I am here. And I think those people, they are basically saying, we are from here. And then the other one says, okay, this is the name, Madi. And eventually it became their name for their territory, for their people, for their language. It's like that. And I can see here someone is asking whether I speak the language. I don't speak it very well. I cannot really have long conversations in Madi language. But if I go to the market, and I do often go to the market to buy my vegetables, whatever, I normally buy them in Madi. People, after 8 years, they still laugh when I greet them in Madi, and yeah, they enjoy it very much.
Wow. Any more questions, guys, before we let Aritz go? He needs to go and learn the language. Practice.
I'm thinking that Africa has so many languages, and it's the first time that I hear of the Madi language.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you should have greeted us in Madi, so we can get our point of departure.
No, he can still say bye, because I think we are almost done. And then he can tell us how to say bye in that Madi language. And then after that, I'm going to just play some trailers for the international documentaries. And then I want Millicent and Kia to just remain behind. Aritz, you can go after that whilst we're playing the trailers if you want to go. But if you want to stay, you can stay. After that break, we are going to talk more about the festival and what's happening. So you can say goodbye to us in Madi.
Okay. So I'm going to say it first in English so that you can follow it. I'm just going to say thanks for meeting you and stay well. Okay? So, Ansoposi en Rekasi va Anyoluda. Back in we meet.
Yeah, I thought that was
Sexta vítima.
Patrícia, dá-me os tubos só.
É um desespero pensar que podemos chegar a esse ponto, não ter capacidade de ajudar quem de nós precisa.
Está-lhe a faltar o ar?
Não podíamos virar de costas, não podíamos fugir, não podíamos ficar fechados em casa.
E estamos com sorte.
Temos as camas todas ocupadas.
Então, um bocadinho.
Há quem compare isto a uma guerra.
Wakati nilikuwa mtoto, mama yangu hakuwahi niambia hali ambayo ningekabiliana nayo maisha. Alikuwa mkali na mkatili sana. Sikuweza kuketi karibu naye ili tuongee kuhusu shida zangu. Laiti ningemwambia kilichonipata. Siwezi kusahau siku za damu katikati ya miguu yangu.
The soldiers came, shooting any moving thing.
It was October. It was hot. The bodies decomposed very fast.
When the war came, we went to Sudan.
The culture is going, and this is because of the war and the movement and the political changes that have been happening here. Yeah.
The things which they need to keep in our culture. Traditional dance. Another one is this one, cooking food. The things which they need to change in our culture.
Todas as minhas colegas são todas revolucionárias. Estão ali, estão na batalha, estão na luta.
Eu escolhi ser feminista e levantar a bandeira dos direitos das mulheres onde quer que eu queira estar.
Em sede do tribunal, ficaram provados 2 crimes cometidos: violência física grave, violência psicológica.
Esta vitória significa e dedico àquelas milhões de mulheres que sofrem todos os dias como vítimas de violência.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Malao. I think we can round it up now, seeing that it's just me and you now in the room. So we can just round it up, just We're still live. Just to give a brief update in terms of the festival, where we are, so that we can just update everybody. Let me go first in terms of updates. It's more on registrations really. We have received. We were expecting about 120 people to register, and we are going to be able to accommodate about 100 people in the venue. But what has happened now is as of today, we have received 350 applications for registration, of which the majority of those, over about 320, something like that, they want to come to the venue. So just putting it out there that it might be, a lot of people are going to be disappointed, but not entirely disappointed, because the festival is also happening online. So for those that are not going to be accredited to attend in person, you will catch every session online. But we really, really thank you for the interest that the people out there have shown towards the festival. We truly, truly appreciate. Now, Mr. Malao, you can just give us an update in terms of where we are right now with the festival, everything else, and what can people really look forward to in November.
Yes, no, thanks very much, Mr. B. Where we are now is that we are just doing final touches with preparations of the festival. We are really looking forward to the 7th edition of the Rustenburg Film Festival. And as you all know, that we are going to be having this festival from the 11th to the 14th of November, wherein on the 11th, we will be having our official opening of the festival. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we are going to be hosting workshops. But then what is interesting about Saturday is that Saturday evening, we will be hosting awards for the winners of the nominated films. So this awards will be hosted at Kingsgate, but of course it will be by invitation only, and for those that who would have registered to attend the festival. So we are really, really looking forward to the 7th edition of the Rustenburg Film Festival.
Wonderful, wonderful. We've got someone who has just joined us. I don't know if they are there. Andre?
Yes,
there we go.
Sorry for being late.
Hello, Andre.
It's very nice to be here with you. Thank you for this invitation.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You finally managed to come through. We hear you were on your way and you had to go dodge some traffic and everything just to get to the computer.
Yes, a lot. Sorry about that. Things that can happen to a journalist.
Wonderful. Andre, you did the diagnosis, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Brilliant documentary. I mean, everybody here, we enjoyed that documentary so much. And we are really dying to find out. I mean, the trailer has been played already, if you didn't see it. But we have been playing the trailer anyway. But just take us through that journey. First of all, just introduce yourself as a filmmaker, and then from there, we want to know more about the journey and how you managed to put cameras in hospitals to get all those shots.
Well, I'm a journalist. Hi, everyone. I'm a journalist, and this was the first documentary film that I made. It was very hard, I have to say, in an emotional point of view. So I used to cover a lot of stressful situation like the refugee crisis in Europe or any other topics. I've been covering the conflict in Palestine. So I'm kind of used to stressful situations. But the fact that this was like a a war against an invisible enemy. I decided to go inside one of the biggest Portuguese hospitals when the second wave hit the country. So on the first wave, Portugal didn't had a lot of cases or deaths caused by COVID-19. But the fact is that on the second wave, we still don't know how did the country get to this point. But Portugal was considered the worst country in the world regarding new infections and deaths caused by COVID-19. So everyone was very stressed out. There was new variants arriving in the country right after Christmas. And in February, it was the peak of the pandemic in Portugal. No vaccines were available at that time. So I felt the same urge to cover this issue as I did in 2016 with the refugee crisis in Europe, when thousands of people were dying at the sea. I thought that this was a situation that needed to be told from the inside. So I contacted all my sources. I've been in São João Hospital. It was the first hospital that treated COVID patients in Portugal. And somehow they allowed me to go in. And I have to say that I didn't have any kind of measures or like red zones that I couldn't go. I had a free pass to spend the whole week from day to night. I almost lived inside the hospital. I had to be fully equipped during all that time. So I had a little experience that is the experience that the hospital staff, the medical staff, the nurses or the assistants live even nowadays, every day, hour after hour. So it was very complicated to have this success. But I think that I was able to get inside this chaos because the medical staff, nurses and everything, they wanted to show how serious this was. And I have to say that from an emotional point of view, this was very hard to film and then to put all together in the documentary film. Some persons that I interviewed inside the hospital are unfortunately dead. We've been able to make all the process of their recovery sometimes, or the fact that that came surprisingly to many of them that were healthy people with no other diseases, but even though they died because of COVID-19. So this was a very strange feeling, because I was inside a hospital. We don't see the virus, but this is a war against something that we don't see. And I was seeing with my own eyes what was happening in the worst country in the world, and people dying in front of me. And people with 20 or 30 years old. We are not talking about just the elder people. We are not talking just about 70 or 80 people, years old people. We are talking about 20, 30, and 40. And this was very shocking to see that perfectly healthy people can die. I have to say that one of the interviews that I made, and that story is on the documentary film, is of a man called Sergio. He survived. But when I approached him on the ICU unit at this hospital, I thought that he was like 60, 70 years old. And I've made the interview. It was a very short interview. He wasn't barely able to breathe. So speaking with him was a very difficult thing for him to give me an interview. But I will remember forever. We spoke for 1 minute and 47 seconds. He couldn't handle more than this, because he couldn't breathe well enough to speak with me for 2 minutes. And as I told you, I thought that he was 60 or 17 or 70 or 80 years old. He was very like gray, very skinny, gray hair. He looked like a very old person, and he was only 43 years old. It was pretty shocking to me, because in the end I asked his name, I asked his age, so I can have that information for me. And when he told me 43 years old, I was shocked, because of COVID-19, he was in coma for 60 days. He was on the ICU for more than 90 days. I could see with my own eyes what COVID-19 can do to people. He was perfectly healthy, and I've met a lot of other people with 40 years old that unfortunately didn't have the same lucky, because this is just, you're lucky or not to survive. And those other people that I interviewed died right after the documentary was finished. So from an emotional point of view, this was heartbreaking, I have to say.
Oh my, oh my, oh my. So now, is it that gentleman with a bit of brushed beard, the one
Yes.
who?
Yes, exactly. With the eyes, I think that his eyes express exactly the feeling of sadness, despair, weakness. Also, you see that that picture that is the cover of the documentary film. You see that, and you realize the pain without saying any word. It was pain, despair. It was very difficult for them. And this documentary came in a time in Portugal, and I believe across the world, in South Africa, in Europe, and in another countries. It came precisely on the time where people were discussing if COVID was a serious illness, if they should be vaccinated in the future. And it seemed, at least in Portugal, when it was the premiere of this documentary film, I think it was a very alarming sound to the society, to the Portuguese society, and it changed a lot of minds to see with your own eyes what can COVID-19 do to a perfectly healthy person.
Absolutely. And I mean, I must really commend you for a job well done. The selection of the shots, like this thing that you are talking about, this man and you know, in his eyes, it's something that you can tell. The shots that you were using draws us into that. So I'm really, really grateful, and you know, a big congratulations for a job well done. We truly appreciate that. And as a factual storyteller, because this is not fiction, this is factual. We as filmmakers, we've got such a huge responsibility. And I know that your documentary is changing lives. The people that didn't believe in COVID, when they watch that documentary, something changes inside. How do all those things make you feel as a filmmaker, to know that you have got such a huge responsibility? You're not just entertaining people, you are educating people.
I always try to be humble, because it's very difficult to believe that we can change someone's lives, or we can have an impact in such a serious topic as COVID-19 that is killing people around the world. I always try to be humble, because as a filmmaker and also a journalist, we can't have the burden to change the world. This is a very big thing to do, and if you think that you can do this all the time, you will get frustrated, because the world doesn't change in the way sometimes you want it to change. I give you an example. I've covered a lot the conflict between Palestine and Israel, and I always thought that somehow my documentary films could make a difference, and it changed so little that is not enough for people that are suffering in Palestine or in Gaza Strip. The conflict is still there. Like a few short time ago, months ago, we saw Gaza suffering with shillings from Israel. So I always try to keep my feet on the ground, and not to think that my goal is to change something. But in fact, this time, it really changed, and I was very happy to feel that. It changed, for example, the life of Ricardo. It's like the main character. It's not fiction, but it's the main case that is telling his story across the documentary. That bold guy that is only 30 years old. It changed his life because there was like a wave of solidarity to try to help him, because he went to coma for several days, and when he woke up, he worked in a restaurant, and when we woke up, he had lost everything. He couldn't speak, he couldn't breathe alone. He didn't have his job because the restaurant closed down, and he didn't have anything. And by seeing that, I'm sure that I changed his life, because people united, and with solidarity, they managed to have funds so he can have access to food that he didn't have. And now, at this day, he was able to recover and to open again his restaurant. This was one life, at least, that I changed. But in fact, as a filmmaker, we all have that, I can say, is a power to change something. And I received thousands of messages from people saying that, for example, tiny things. I was having a dinner with my friends tomorrow, but now I saw your interview, your documentary, and now I canceled that friends meeting. So they got, I think, more conscious after seeing the real impact that COVID-19 might have in their lives.
Oh, thank you so much. I talk a lot, Andre. You see, these two people are just quiet because I get so lost in a story, and I just keep going on, and I don't realize that I have my two friends and colleagues with me. Maybe they also have questions to ask you.
Yeah, sure.
So thank you very much from my side.
Thank you.
Yes. No, thanks very much, Andre, for making it. You know, I watched your documentary, and believe you me, I could relate very well with it, because I myself spent some time in ICU during December. I had COVID, you know, so it kind of like it hit me somehow, you know, and I could not stop watching it, you know, and to my surprise, you know, when I got out of hospital, I was still surprised to see other people who still believe that there isn't COVID out there, you know. So a documentary like yours, you know, if people can watch that documentary, it will sort of hit them hard, you know. When I saw that character that you were earlier referring to, that 40-year-old man who had prayer, you know.
Yes.
He sort of reminded me, you know, and actually even when I saw a lot of people who were dying in the documentary, it sort of reminded me of when I was in ICU, where I spent my Christmas and New Year's, and looking at people who were actually dying from the ICU, you know. And I was like there every morning, you know, around from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. That was the time that most of people used to pass, you know. I would wake up, watch around, and suddenly, you know, the doctors and nurses would be around me, and they would, you know, with those curtains, you know, they would cover me so I don't get to see what was happening, you know, around me. And a few minutes later, 10, 15 minutes later, you know, you get another group of people would come and take people to the mortuary, and you're like, yeah, you know, I have to hang on here, you know. So it's I related very, very well with with your documentary. Believe you me, I have related very, very well. And yeah, I would like to reiterate on what Mr. B said. Congratulations and job well done. That film, it hit home.
Thank you. You just told one thing that was the moment when all of people come quiet. It's the night. The night are the hardest part when you're in a hospital or in an ICU. It's the part when you don't know what can happen even to yourself. You don't, because at night there is a scientific explanation, of course. It's more likely for weak people to die with this disease. And the night is the hardest part, is when the silence is there, is when you are alone trying to sleep. Sometimes you can't, is when your family is at home and you are not. And especially in Christmas, it should be even more difficult to be there, to not be able to see your family, to don't have that physical support, that hand holding your hand. That is that lack of skin touch is it's very difficult, and that loneliness that you feel during your periods on hospital gets worse because you don't have anything. Even the nurses or the doctors, they don't touch your skin. They have gloves, they have masks. You don't see. It's not the same thing. So I felt that it was like an alien space, you know. You only see masks and bodysuits and gloves and plastic and lights inside of you and tubes inside your throat. So and sometimes you have to be there, just quiet, not moving. You cannot move. You depend on a machine to breathe. In Portugal, we have a specific technique that it's called ECMO, where your blood is coming out of your body to pass through a machine, being oxygenated, and then goes back again into your country. This is very violent for the body. But it's the only way for you to survive. Yes, it's the only way when you are in a very bad condition to survive. But the night, in fact, was the very impressive to be there. The hospital is in absolutely quiet. And from one moment to another, someone can die. An outbreak can come with elder people that probably will not survive. The night is the most, like, it's cold, it's ruthless, I have to say.
Yeah, and as well, I mean, like the human body, it's the most vulnerable at night. That's why you can have a flu in the afternoon, you're okay, but come night time, you know, our bodies do things at night. They suspend a lot of systems. But we're not doctors here. But we are filmmakers, so we know how to research and get to know these things. Now, how is the situation like right now in Portugal in terms of your vaccination rate, you know, and stuff like that?
We became from the worst, we became the best. So I think people got very conscious about the serious illness that this virus can cause to your body. So Portugal now has just a few cases, just like 5 or 8 deaths a day. It's very different from what was happening in the beginning of the year or last year. It's very different. And people understood that they had to get the vaccine. People rushed to vaccination centers. They realized that this is not the end of the pandemic, but if they did, things will be better. And I have to say that there was a lot of queues, people waiting, like kilometers of people waiting to get the vaccine. It was not an easy process, but the fact is now almost 19% of the Portuguese residents are now fully vaccinated with the 2 doses. And the results are there. This is not arguable. Some get sick, of course, people get the virus, but they don't get ill. They don't need to go to a hospital. and they transmit the virus in a very different way. You can be on the same place and have a better chance of not getting infected if you are in front of another person. So Portugal now is in a very different point. There is no need to use a mask on the street, for example. Some companies are now allowing its employees inside the buildings to not use a mask, keeping, of course, 1 or 2 meters distance. On my network, for example, we still use mask for security reasons, because there is no authority saying you need to have or you have to have. It's not mandatory, it's optional. And you see that things are very different. Portugal a few days ago was the best country in the world regarding the percentage of the population that is fully vaccinated. So this is a very different standard. I think after the shock during the period of time that is the period of time of this documentary film to now, it's like day and night. It's completely different.
Wow. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. We really, okay, I'm going to come to you. Just hold up. One more question. So yeah, no, we really thank you so much, Andre, for submitting your documentary to the Rustenburg Film Festival. I mean, one of the reasons why we specifically selected it is because as a festival, we, particularly when it comes to documentaries, we've got a number of documentaries, even our local documentaries that talk about the dangers of coal mining and a whole lot of other things. So we want stories that create dialogue and stories that educate people. So we have had a very, let me say, slow uptake in terms of vaccination in South Africa. People are getting vaccinated, but not at the expected rate. Everything is there, but you've got all this information coming in from social media, from people that are, suddenly everybody is a doctor out there. Suddenly everybody has got an opinion about a matter that, doctors went to school for years and years to study this, but suddenly everybody can advise other people otherwise and whatnot. So we are hoping that screening your film at our festival is also going to help, even if it helps one person. That's the whole idea. So thank you so much for submitting it. And then I'm going to cross to Millicent because I cut her off when she was asking something. But after that, I would like to close with something amazing. So thank you. You can go ahead, Millie. Sorry to cut you.
Hello, Mr. Atre.
Hello.
Yes, I can relate as well to, obviously, to the story, to your documentary, because I had COVID in July, August, but I didn't get to go to the hospital. You know how our parents would then say it is easier for you to get healed. Here in South Africa, a lot of people believe that you're actually prone to die in hospital than for you to survive at home. So we did the home, she'll be fine, isolating and working on yourself at home. But this is the question that I wanted to ask you. When you guys were going to the hospital, were you not afraid seeing all these people dying, all these experiences that were happening happening while you were there? Were you not scared that maybe one or two of you or the whole cast or the whole crew can get COVID? How was that experience going there, seeing these people dying, and you're like, what if I wake up tomorrow and I have COVID?
Yes, I have to say, and I confess this to you. I live in Lisbon, and I had to travel to Oporto, that is on the north of the country. And when I was already at the car, going like a 2 or 3 hours ride, I thought to myself, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to go? And I was very away to imagine what I was about to see. But my imagination kept going. What if I get the virus? What if I get in? And what if something happens and I cannot leave the hospital? What if I die during the filming of this documentary? This was a real possibility. All the doctors that allow me to go inside told me that. I was pretty aware. But I felt this like a mission. Sometimes when you really want to do something, it's not just about the product as a film. It's more than that. I really wanted to witness with my own eyes. This is my journalistic blood speaking. I wanted to see with my own eyes the history. It's a world history that we lived together, independently from the countries we are from. We all live this in the same way, and I wanted to live this inside a hospital. But I was very afraid, I think more than twice, before going in. And even at that right moment, I was still not sure if it was a good idea. But I decided to go. I have to say that, as I told you, as an example, I've been in Palestine, and I've witnessed a lot of things like planes passing by, rockets falling in the Gaza Strip border. I saw a lot of those things, but I was more afraid to get inside a hospital in that week than of rockets falling in the Gaza in the Gaza border, because it was a period when we didn't know as much about these new variants of the virus. It was a period of time when we all know someone in Portugal that died with COVID-19. People were very scared. The lockdown was there in ways that I never see it before. The streets are empty. The country, I have to say, at February, when we filmed this documentary, the streets in the country look like a ghost country. No one was on the street. It was quite silent. I live near the airport, for example, Lisbon's airport. So I'm used to hear the noise of the planes coming in and coming out. So I'm used to have a lot of noise around me. And suddenly, nothing, not a car, nor a person on the street. I believe that even the birds got silent during those days. It was very strange, really, a very strange feeling. And you didn't see the virus. The virus can be at your door, at the stairs of your building, just right outside. And because this was this collective story that we all lived somehow in the same way, I thought, I have to do my part. What can I do? I cannot be a volunteer. I cannot be outside. I have to be locked down in my home house. If I want to leave my house, it has to be productive. Okay, I'm afraid to leave. I should be inside. I'm going inside a hospital. It's like a mission. It's a mission. I cannot say this in another way. I was very afraid. For example, I was late to this meeting, and I apologize for that, because I'm trying to enter Afghanistan, for example. And I'm also afraid because I don't know what can happen if I go to Afghanistan. The situation is very unstable. But I think I was more afraid on that 2-hour ride to Oporto when I was to the hospital. I was very, very afraid because you don't see it. And you feel that you might die. When you have, for example, rockets falling or some shooting on the street on a conflict zone, you somehow see the shooter or hear the plane where you can somehow manage to not escape, but to protect yourself, to cover yourself. There are techniques, security techniques. In this situation, there are no techniques to escape from the virus. So this is pretty scary. And some nurses and doctors, didn't understood on the first day why did I want to get in. We reduced our team. It was just me and a cameraman. We reduced to the minimum possible because I cannot film. So we both entered the hospital, and the nurses and the doctors didn't understand why we want to have this experience. Why do you want to put your life at risk? So the only explanation that I have is that this was a mission. I took this as my contribute to common sense around this virus.
Oh man.
Wow.
Andre, we truly, truly appreciate you, man. We appreciate you. We are very, very grateful. Your film is well done, and we know that it's going to, it's going to, create a change in people's lives, in people's attitudes. Now, as you go, Andre, I would like you to say a statement to anybody who is out there who is still skeptical, who is still believing in conspiracy theories, as a person who has been inside, as a person who knows, who has come face to face with people that are dying from COVID. Maybe some people out there that are watching right now or watching at a later stage can actually, believe what is happening. And after you say that message, I'm going to play out with your trailer. And we really, really thank you for your time, Andre. You can take it away.
Okay. I have to say that this is a very serious illness, and no one told me that someone can die or someone can be in coma or have injuries for and complications for the rest of their lives. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw people dying. I saw also people surviving with complications that will last a lifetime. They will not recover. They will not fully recover. So this is a very serious virus, and it only depends on one thing for us to turn the page. It only depends on us and how we behave. So we have to get vaccinated, and we have to stay home if there are lockdowns going on, and we have to pray that this passes fastly and we can be with each other again soon. If that doesn't happen soon, it will happen sooner or later. But we have to be conscious that this is real. This is not a scam. This is not a conspiracy in the United States or China or wherever. This is real. I saw it. So we have to be very careful about us, about our mother, our father, our brother. We have to take care of each other. I have to take care of you, and I hope you take care of me also.
Patrícia, dá-me os tubos só.
É um desespero pensar que podemos chegar a esse ponto, não ter capacidade de ajudar quem a nós precisa.
Está-lhe a faltar o ar?
Não podíamos virar costas, não podíamos fugir, não podíamos ficar fechados em casa.
E estamos com sorte.
As camas todas ocupadas.
É só um bocadinho. Há quem compare isto a uma guerra.
Thank you very much, Andre.
Thank you.
Truly, truly appreciate you spending your time with us, and we are wishing you all the best. Please stay safe.
Yes, you
Stay
too.
safe when you go out there to the field to tell those stories. We pray for your safety. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Let me just say in a minute that I'm very honored to be here with you. I was so happy to know that I was a nominee. This is very important for me, and personally, I thank you with my heart full of happiness. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. See you.
Bye.
Good
Bye.
safe. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.